welcome to today's webinar, and I'll pass over to Gracie to just start us off, and then we'll go through some housekeeping. But thank you so much for coming together with us today.
A swale, A is for good, swale is for day. Welcome everybody. This webinar today, the title of it is Matriarchs, Always Teaching and Sharing the Love. It is a Truth and Reconciliation Sharing Circle, honoring the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, with presenters Frances and Brenda Horne and myself. And I also wanted to acknowledge Lisa here with the Reichard and Associates and the team for hosting this 5th annual presentation.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you again, everyone, for joining today. So as Gracie mentioned, we're facilitating today's webinar. A bit about me: I'm a research and evaluation analyst at Reichard and Associates. We're a research firm based in Vancouver, so I'm joining today from the traditional unceded territories of the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh Nations. We're a firm that's, for the past 20 years been working with different health and social service organizations to improve their services and better serve their communities. We're lucky to cross paths with Gracie with her work with the Chilliwack and Fraser Health Rural Primary Care Network, and we're honored to be facilitating today's webinar. Just a few quick housekeeping items I wanted to go through. So the first is that we have kind of recorded today's webinar, and that's so that we can share it out, as well as all of the resources that Gracie will be sharing today after the webinar for those that aren't able to join today or who are planning to dedicate some time for this on Monday, the actual day for Truth and Reconciliation. I guess the other thing as well, in terms of interacting, we do have about over 200 people joining today, which is wonderful. So we do ask that you try to keep yourself on mute when you're not speaking, and also to encourage you to use the reaction button at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and that's where you can raise your hand. So that'll really help me to see who's looking to speak and that kind of thing. So that would be helpful. We're also planning to send a really short feedback survey following this to understand kind of what you got out of today and things you want us to focus on moving forward. And then last thing I wanted to mention was just we will be sharing some resources, some self-care resources at the end of the webinar. Things might, we know that the next few days are quite difficult and can be quite difficult for folks. So we definitely want you to have the resources that you might need that are freely accessible at any time. And so we will be sharing those. And just remember that you can take your time during today. We do have an hour and a half together, and you're welcome to take pauses, stop for water, turn off your video if you need some space. So we welcome you to do that. In terms of what to expect, so for the next hour or so, we'll be hearing from Gracie, Frances, and Brenda. And they'll be sharing about the importance of matriarchs in their community, supporting matriarchs, and also their resilience and their support in terms of reconciliation. And I welcome you to also reflect on, matriarch figures in your own life, be it, family member within your circle or wider community, kind of as we hear about these stories today. I think that covers it for the housekeeping. I guess, Gracie, was there anything else to add or anything else I might be missing?
Thank you for getting us started, and we'll move on to Frances sharing a drum song.
Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Katwimala. I come in peace. I'm coming to you from the unceded territory of the Stalo people and Chiacton Reserve. Oh hello, oh hey, oh hello, oh hey, oh hey, oh hey, oh hello, oh hey, oh hello, oh hey, oh hey, oh hey, oh hello, oh hey, oh hey, oh hey, oh hello, oh hey, oh hey, oh hey, oh hello, oh hey, oh hello, oh hey, oh hey, oh hey. Oh hello, oh hey, oh hello, oh hey, oh hey, oh hey, oh hello, oh hey, oh hey, song is a matriarch song calling in the grandmothers and the great grandmothers and sending prayers to each and every one of you. Put a shield of protection over you and over this session, Haichka.
Next slide. This picture is very, thank you, Francis, for sharing and bringing us to where we are wanting to be part of this work and with good energy, mind, spirit, and connection to the wonderful matriarchs that are around us. So I thought I'd start off by sharing this beautiful picture to continue on with the words. Thank you, Lisa, for doing a traditional territory acknowledgement in the community of where you were working. I really like these words by Captain John Swallace, and I like to add my traditional community name, Thwali, in front of it. So I would say the people of Thwali have always lived here by the same mountains beneath the same skies. These words identify the importance that we First Nations have always been here. Our First Nations communities have smaller spaces because of the impact of history. I request the importance and value of traditional territory acknowledgement because it creates understanding when it's shared before meetings, before the traditional welcome from the elder or knowledge keeper. These special words honor the territory with words from your heart and are shared with good intention that supports reconciliation. Learning will take time with the rich resources that are available. There is no one resource to support or create traditional territory acknowledgements fully, and I ask, why should there be? Like my mama says, we all learn from each other. Go to the next slide. We'll start off by Francis and Brenda introducing themselves, and Lisa from the Reichardt team, and then I'll end.
My name is Dr. Francis Horne. My traditional name is Katwimala, and I'm glad to be here and share and listen to the sharing that's going on here.
Let's see. My name is Brenda Horne. I'm otherwise known as Mama Ben. I'm the mother of 4 children, 5 stepchildren, and 19 grandchildren that we share together. We currently reside in Chackden in the Fraser Valley.
Great. And yeah, I have kind of given a bit of background on myself, but I'm someone of mixed European descent. Most of my family background is French and Scottish. And my family moved to, I guess, Eastern Canada about 7 generations ago. So some of the first settlers on these lands. And settler community on the land. And yeah, I moved to Vancouver several years ago, and that's kind of where I'm joining in from today. And yeah, I'm just so honored to be here with Gracie and Francis and Brenda and all of you today. It's become an annual get together, and yeah, just really looking forward to seeing what we learn from everyone today.
My family is the community of Thwali Castachowiak tribe. I'm also Stalo in one of the communities of 24 that we call home to the Fraser River, which we call Stalo as well. My work over the years have facilitated Stalo cultural teachings, as well as some experience and connections in health and education, really supporting First Nations communities and kind of upholding our life and land teachings the best way I can through connecting with community and really appreciating all the matriarchs and mentors who have brought me to where I am today. My role currently is as a liaison with the Indigenous Specific Anti-Racism team with Doctors of BC, and I also, want to always ensure in the work that I do, it's really important to always be respectful of First Nations, Métis, and Inuit. So it's a proud time to be in this growth and awareness of where we are to continue our cultural safety and humility journey and reconciliation together. We'll go on to our next slide. I really like this title, Honoring First Nations in Different Ways and Means. I understand that there are many resources that offer information as to what it may mean between maps and to support people who are thinking about the traditional territories in which they live, work, and play. I just thought I'd identify these three. The first one here, there's some really great information in regards to the maps and the location in the surrounding communities. There's some data in it in regards to the has 2024. There is some that is later, but like I said, we learn little bits and pieces from a lot of these resources. So over time, I believe there will be future development. Also, the BC Assembly of First Nations advocates for the 203 First Nations within BC. One tab that I like is the First Nations in BC interactive map of the communities. It also connects and shares the languages within the region. And what I found interesting with this map is that it shared my community as a lower mainland southwest. So I learned something new from that. And last but not least, the connection to our languages, to share we have we have come from, and to identify how important and valuable our language is, to consider and bring forth the importance of how we share through the seasonal calendar of the year. So these are just some references that I thought I'd share today. So the word on the top, reconciliation. A couple years ago, I really liked seeing these words, action, as opposed to reconciliation. I have seen movement in health and education sectors being a part of this work, but also the journey takes time, and I really love hearing and seeing some quotes. Elder Jerry Ullman and his rich storytelling and life and land teachings. We cannot say goodbye to a problem, and that's the impact of colonization, unless or until we have said hello. And the Honorable Murray Sinclair, you know, in hearing these words where he talks about we have to learn how to talk to and about each other with greater respect than what has been the case in the past. Chancellor Sinclair says, we may not achieve reconciliation within my lifetime or within the lifetime of my children, but we will be able to achieve it if we all commit to working towards it properly. Part of that commitment is that every year on September 30th, we will stand up together and we will say never again. What we did in this country was wrong, and we'll never allow that to happen again. And my response or my reflection in hearing those words, I hear you, I believe, Kalmut Set, that we together can add no harm by taking action. These slides here is a review of the health calls to action, just a snapshot as a reminder as to what we are working towards, and I believe they are achievable within the work I've done to support the PCN region from Boothroyd to Chilliwack. We have touched base in all of those calls to action, and I feel, you know, the worthiness and the grounding, the value of this true work is really connected to the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation, all the resources that they have, and, you know, in the other part I have here of Government of Canada, you know, there's some response to the calls to action, and we have the 18 to 24 once again highlighted for the health calls. Today's work is about, you know, recognizing matriarchs, always teaching and always sharing the love. These are just reflections and teachings that we have come across, and just felt excited to be able to share these words with you, with those that are present. It's just, once again, that reflection of where we are, where we came from, and what we'd like to share. So I wanted to acknowledge that, and also when we look at the number 21 and 22, the inclusion of traditional wellness practices. So with gratitude and honorable moments of humility and appreciation for our sacred mothers, our matriarchs. So we'll go to the next slide now. So we'll start off with Francis and Brenda sharing some teachings in regards to matriarchs and their definition, and then I'll continue.
I'm Mama Ben, and I come in peace. My definition of a matriarch is, well, I'll go back to before I arrived in the Fraser Valley, which was in 2004. Before I arrived, my understanding of a matriarch was of a women that were in leadership role, whether within their family, community, or both. Highly respected women who carried knowledge and wisdom. Today, how I understand it and deeply appreciate the matriarchs, who are the knowledge keepers, those willing to share the wisdom that they've gained over a lifetime of experience. Matriarchs can be the prayer warriors, the ones who ask the Creator to protect and guide their loved ones on this journey. She may be the silent matriarch, the one who leads by example, a role model. The matriarchs are the grandmothers, the educators, the advocates, and the healers.
My name is Katwimaluk. I come in peace, Dr. Francis Horne Sr. Looking back and realizing that my mother was a matriarch, my grandmother, my great-grandmothers, and the things that they left behind for us, the teachings, the cultural aspect, like for a mass, for instance, the stome, the songs, we wouldn't have our mass without those songs, and the matriarch carries that, and it's important to realize that a lot of our education, not through books of learning, but through hands-on learning from our matriarchs, carrying on and teaching us about the medicines, about the water, about the spiritual aspects of our lives, and always to be kind, and always help people out, always put that hand out to help people out. And these are the kind words that were left by my grandmothers, my great-grandmothers, and the things that were passed on to my mother, where we shared things and we listened to the different stories that she had to tell, and how we carried on with our lives in a good way.
Kwasai. When I was leaving the last webinar last year and coming home, I was thinking, gee, where would I be without my mom, without my grandmother, so that came to me, and that idea of, so this has been a year in the making, because right then and there I decided, you know what, I think our next webinar should be about matriarchs. And so I reflect back on where would I be if I didn't have these teachings from a young child to where I am now as a great grandmother. And we actually have five five generations within our family. And so I've been thinking about, where are we at with our family, and even with our community, on a wealth of knowledge that my mom has been able to offer. So my kind of reflection or definition of matriarchs is matriarchs share their love, their truth through stories of who we are, where we came from, and what we could be doing for our future generations.
Sure.
And we'll go now to Francis sharing with the next slide. Thank you.
My name is Katwimaluk. I come in peace. I've been an artist for most of my life now. 54 years as an artist and creating and going up to the mountains, listening to the spirit, gaining Snowiath, and a lot of the things that I carved in the past, like on the first mask represents a matriarch. If you can see it up close, it's an old half is an old woman, and the younger half is a young princess, and it shows the transition from youngster to growing into a matriarch. The white hair, for instance, a symbol of wisdom, knowing that they've learned through their lives what they have to do and how to carry on in their own lives. And the second mask is a frog woman mask. I did that one in quite some years ago, 30 years ago. And that one represents my mother and all the things that she had been through and all the trials and tribulations, the tears coming out, represented her children and the worries and the thoughts that she carried. And, the frog coming out of the mouth, represents the, you know, the words of wisdom that she was brought and shared with us. The next one is a wild woman, and the matriarch of the woods which is a Sasquatch, and that one you can't see it very well, but it's got a baby on the back, and she's pregnant. She's holding her tummy. So the matriarch of the woods, we were taught a long time ago that through legend and through different stories that a long time ago they would tell us as children to stay in at nighttime, don't go out. The Sasquatch was always waiting, but these were legends to make us pay attention, to keep us on our toes, so to speak, so that we listen to our teachings, the teachings about the darkness and things like that we weren't allowed out after dark. We weren't allowed to eat food in the dark, and these things were used as tools, so to speak, to make us aware of the spirit. The last one is another frog woman, and these ones I did put earrings on. It's all one piece. My wife did the inlay, the abalone inlay on there, and again, it represents a matriarch. All the things that go on and the different trials and tribulations that a woman has to go through to grow into the wise elder that she is meant to be. And having learned all the things that I've learned through the teachings that were brought to me by my grandmother. I remember going out and picking roots with my grandmother. I didn't understand at the time. She would take us up to the mountains and send us into the creek, and we were young children, and she would make us reach under the bank because part of the bank was gone, and we would reach under there and grab the roots that she wanted. And there were so many different things and so many different medicines, but lost over time because I was a 60 scoop. And so a lot of the things that I carved they represented things in my own life, all the things that I've been through, and from a different point of view, as seeing these and understanding them myself as time goes by, and having that love, that honor, that respect for the matriarch at all times. It's good.
I'd like to take a few moments just to reflect on a very powerful woman that I had the pleasure of getting to know quite well, and her name was Grand Chief Dr. Rose Charlie. And when I reflect on the role of the matriarch, there's one woman who immediately steps forward in my memories, and this is of Rose, and I share a portion of her story with permission from her daughter, Rubina. When I first arrived in BC in 2004, I became reacquainted with Rose. I just had such a pleasure in getting to know her. She was so influential in my life. And although I had met, up until moving out to the coast, and I'm originally from Ontario, I'd met many amazing women within my own circle, but it wasn't until I experienced life within the context of the Coast Salish Indigenous culture that I would come to understand what the true meaning of a matriarch really was. And I was so inspired by everything that Rose had accomplished in her lifetime. And I'd like to take this opportunity just to share a couple of the things that she had accomplished in her lifetime. And she did all of this while raising 6 children with her husband, Peter. She received an honorary doctorate of laws at UBC. She was involved in the formation of the National Indian Brotherhood, now the Assembly of First Nations, a member of the Union of the BC Indian Chiefs, and was named Grand Chief of British Columbia. While forming and being a part of forming the Union of the BC Indian Chiefs, Rose raised money by supporting and gathering people together, organizing and participating in a 100-mile moccasin walk twice. The first walk was from Vancouver to Hope, and the second walk was from Vancouver to Abbotsford, and then crossed over to Mission, and then back to Vancouver again. And all of this was to raise awareness and was to support the formation of the Union of BC Indian Chiefs. She was a chief in her home community of Sta'alis. She was the president and the founder of the BC Indian Homemakers Association, which was the first provincial Indigenous women's organization in BC. And she held that role as president for 28 years, all voluntary. She received the Order of Canada, the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal for service to her community. When I first met Rose, she was receiving the Governor General's Award in commemoration of the person's case. And this award is given to honor the promotion of equality for girls and women in Canada. So I'll just relay just a little bit of history about what the Governor General's Award is. So in 1985, Rose, with the support of a small group, challenged Section 12 of Canada's Indian Act, resulting in Bill C-31, which was overturning the previous decision that Native women who married, and the term was white men at that time, would lose their status. The loss of status for women and children was highly personal for Rose, as 2 of her daughters had married white men, resulting in the loss of their status. So Rose did a lot of research, and this was at a time where you had a rotary phone and you couldn't get instant access information from Google. You couldn't email people. Everything was by telephone and pen and paper. And she would put everything out on her kitchen table, everything organized, all the people that she contacted, the letters that she wrote, and she was very highly organized. But she had a cause, and she knew that if she could affect change, that it would not only be beneficial for her own family, but for women and children nationally. So ironically, during her research, she discovered one sentence in the white paper policy stating that no one should be left without an identity. So this statement she would use in a letter, and it actually became the catalyst for change. So she helped restore the status to over 16,000 women and 46,000 first-generation children of mixed ancestry. In 1994, I was invited to Ottawa to witness Rose receive the Governor's General Award, and it was truly an honor. I was so happy to be there to witness this. When it wasn't until I moved west and became reacquainted with Rose that I fully understood how impactful a matriarch could be. And while Rose was influential for me personally, there would be many more strong and courageous women that I would have the pleasure of meeting. A lot of that was through the work that my husband, Katlimalak, and I do together. I'll touch on my personal role as a role model and as a matriarch. When I met my husband in 2006, he was working spiritually in the communities with people that were seeking help. And he would ask me to come along with him. And I started to get to know people in the communities. And he recognized the value in having a woman accompany him when he was visiting people. And he started to include me in all aspects of his career, for which I'm so grateful because I have learned so much in the 18 years that we've been together. One of the very first things that we had done together was working with men in recovery from addictions. And it was up in the mountains. It was isolated. There were approximately 70 men on campus. They were anywhere in age from 18 years old to 60, 70 years old. And we never had any security, and we lived on site for 5 years with the men that were there. They were out on bail and looking to find recovery from their addiction. So we held healing circles, counseling sessions, and land-based healing journeys. And the land-based healing journeys were taking men up into the mountains on a 7-kilometer journey, and they would wear backpacks that were full of rocks, and each rock symbolized an emotion, a negative emotion: shame, blame, guilt, jealousy, resentment, anger. And they would walk on this journey up in the mountains, and they would talk about the things that were bothering them. So they learned hands-on how to release the things that were bothering them. And we would end the journey at a waterfall where they would open the bag, and they were taught to pull out the rock with the word on it, the emotion, the negative emotion that they needed to let go of. And they would release the rock, which is Mother Earth. They would release that to the water, and they could visually see, hands-on, they can visually see that negative emotion going. And so we found this extremely successful, and we both worked together with these men in recovery. And as I've said before, my husband recognized the value in having the woman, the matriarch, completes that circle of love. And the response from the men in recovery was phenomenal. In health services, he worked as an elder, and many times he would call me in just to pray or to comfort or to support those in the hospital, whether they were a patient or palliative or hospice. We had a role as traditional healers in a clinical setting, serving 7 different communities in the Fraser Valley until COVID hit. And then we had to be creative with our services. And so it was a lot of it was going to people's homes, but outside of their homes, or walking along the water, walking along the river, however we could provide a service safely. We worked in corrections together in a maximum security facility. We worked in a unit called SIU, was Structural Intervention Unit, used to be segregation. And so we both worked that role as the male and the female coming together and bringing the men incarcerated together into a setting that was different from their cell, and where they could be free to express what they needed to talk about. And they would participate in smudging or healing circles and whatever we could provide to give them that comfort. And again, we found that working the male and the female coming together was so beneficial in that work. In the community, we continue to do outreach for the homeless. We continue with healing journeys for individuals in the mountains, as well as travel to Indigenous communities to provide cultural support. So I'd also like to share a little bit about some women that I had the pleasure of talking with when I spoke about today's session, Truth and Reconciliation and the Matrix, honoring the matriarchs. And I asked to share their thoughts on how we can actively come together in truth and reconciliation to support one another on a path toward healing. And the matriarchs, young and elder, had the following comments. I spoke with Rabina, who is the daughter of Grand Chief Rose Charlie. She is from Staelis. One word, and it was very powerful, was listening. And I believe that that's something that we all need to do, is to open our ears and provide space for people when they're speaking and sharing their stories and their experiences, is that we need to listen respectfully. A friend, Maureen in Seabird Island, when asked why her interest with Indigenous people, she responded, "Some of us were meant to be bridge builders." And that really resonated with me, because that's the work, part of the work that my husband and I do together. We work cross-culturally, and we, in a way, look at ourselves, or I look at myself as a bridge builder. My sister-in-law, Kathleen, she is Nachalna. She's a residential school survivor, and she's an elder at the University of Victoria. When I spoke with her, she asks, why do we move forward? What do we do to move forward? And she answers that by stating, we create space for people who have experienced trauma, poverty, and racism. Should be more inclusive support. Targeting the education of the youth. And this is what Kathy and her husband, my brother-in-law, Doug, as elders at UVic, this is what they do. They target the education of the youth because they are more open-minded to change. And students are very receptive when Doug and Kathy come forward and share their knowledge. For myself, I believe become a positive role model. Listen respectfully when stories and experience are being shared. Learn the history of the people who walked, lived, and loved on this land before the arrival of the settlers. Attend Indigenous ceremonies that are open to the public. My stepdaughter, Simone Diamond, is Cowichan. She's an artist. The t-shirt that I'm wearing, if I can do that, is where did I go? Okay, there, we'll try that again. There, I can see that. It is the matriarch. And this was last year's design. I don't know if you can see.
Yes,
This year's design from Simone. He disappeared.
like my tummy
in. She is the creator of this design that's on screen. It is called Matriarchal Power. And this design honors the matriarchs in her family, the women that have been influential for Simone and her family. The words that she shares is that we all need to have compassion toward one another by choosing to be committed to understanding instead of judgment, and that teaching begins in the home. And the last words are from our granddaughter, Adrena, who is also Staelis. She is the great-granddaughter of Deliquia, which is Grand Chief Dr. Rose Charlie, who at 8 years old answers, always be kind.
Yeah.
We'll go on to our next slide here. So thank you both for sharing. Just the images are just so beautiful. I can't wait to see next year's design. But I was thinking in regards to what kind of pictures would I like to share. So I thought, why not share both. To my left is Dr. Joanne Archibald, Kwam Kwam Kuyam. The center is me and my mom, and the right is my mom, and both Joanne and my mom are wearing cedar hats that I created. So they're not the same, they have their own special hats that I gifted to them. And, I've been thinking about what they had to offer me growing up and, being the youngest of 6 girls, really wanting to really enjoy that time, not only with my family, but also with my grandparents that live next door. And lo and behold, I have that opportunity where I live next door. So my children were able to also get that connection to my mom and dad. So pretty grateful for being next door and to also have that opportunity to continue on some of the teachings, whether it might be some gardens outside or even just continuing on with the caring teachings that they often have. As we know, the value of sharing food when people come over, sharing gifts of traditional teachings, and knowing that it brings us strength, makes us strong within our hearts, so we can become mentors with our family, and I call my grandchildren my great grand gifts, and and we want them, and I believe what they already are, turning into little mentors in what they do. And so I came across these words once where it said, "Family is where the story begins." And so, a quick snapshot of thinking about a couple of days ago, my great-grandson Kingsley and my grandson Sean came over, and one of their friends, and having their regular ice cream treat stop. But I asked them, like what my grandfather would ask, "What did you learn today?" Or "Can you share something about what happened today while you were in school?" And just a really nice surprise of both Kingsley and Sean shared that all three of them were able to share a drum song and to honor the special day at school for National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. But, for them to share that they were honored to have been chosen to lead a drum song, but to also share it. So they actually shared part of that song with me that day. So it just goes to show the learning and connection to our family of traditional wellness practices is strong and well, and we all continue to learn and create space, and some families will pick up special gifts within their teachings and bring that forth, and so it's like we may not know all the teachings, and that's why we share those gifts with one another. So I really liked having that special moment with my great grand gifts, and I just thought I'd share that with you. Connecting back to the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, the picture of my mom and I with the orange shirt, and that I'm wearing today as well, is created by Peggy Janicki. We will remember, these special words around the circle. And, my mom has shared that she does appreciate seeing people wearing orange shirts for Orange Shirt Days, or seeing special walks and seeing and hearing all the news and activities that is going around within our cities or organizations on how important it is and how it acknowledges that we hear you and we are bringing awareness of hope. And that brings hope to my mom as a residential school survivor. It brings hope to me as an intergenerational survivor, so we can continue this journey and, not be part of any more of the negative impacts, not be part of the cultural genocide that we know that has happened. And, I feel that the work that we do continues this journey of connecting with each other in the strongest space of balance and understanding within our true selves, or where are we at? Where do we begin? Centering ourselves within our community, our matriarchs, and then we just continue growing in those ways. So I just thought I'd share a little snapshot of where I am at and the gratitude that I have for these two wonderful matriarchs to be part of my life and my children's life and thereafter. And we'll go on now to share if we have any questions from the team that's on board here. And we'll let Lisa help us with that.
Great. Thank you so much, Frances, Brenda, and Gracie for sharing those experiences with us. I think it's just such a huge role in the community. I see things educator, advocate, healer, expression, arts. Yeah, so many important factors. So thank you for sharing your personal experiences from your own life. So yeah, I guess what we can do is open up the sharing circle. So I haven't seen any questions in the chat yet, but you're welcome to send any questions to me in the chat, or if you use that reaction button to raise your hand, then you're welcome to kind of have the stage and share with us. So I guess just starting off, if there's any, I guess, questions for Frances, Brenda, or Gracie about what they shared with us. So we'll just open it up for folks. And I, of course, always have questions as well. So if people are shy, you can also get us started, but just give a moment to see if there's anyone that would like to share or ask a question.
I'd like to say a few things, like
Oh, sure.
looking back and the history that women had lived through, where they were kept quiet, they had no voice, they had, they were basically housewives. Well, times have changed, and there's a lot of women being educated now, and that's what my sister-in-law Kathleen speaks of. Get educated, do the things that you need to do to take care of yourself, and the only way to get educated and keep on learning is to get out and teach. And one of the things that's vitally important is healing. And I always tell people, like, I don't talk about my trauma. I realize that trauma triggers trauma. So if you want to heal, the only way to heal that I found was going up into the mountains and listening to the spirit. And the spirit told me I had to go to a waterfall. An elder had taught me, go to a waterfall and you'll find your power. I went up there and I learned to forgive the past, forgive everybody. I don't talk about my trauma because I know that it triggers. But for the people that are out there and that they don't understand, well, that's reconciliation, is doing something about it. And the only way that you can heal once you learn to forgive is to get out and help other people, and always with kind words. And it wasn't that long ago, even in our longhouses, women never spoke. Now they do. And always remember, it's always with kind words. This is what we were taught by our elders: never to point the finger, always be kind no matter what. And anything that we had to do, like healing and taking care of ourselves, we were taught to go into the mountains, go to the water, and let Mother Earth take care of us in the ways that were done in the old days. So it's important to remember these teachings, and most of all, the matriarch is the nurturer. The matriarch brings forth the love, the honor, the respect, the kindness. And so I'm really glad that I was a part of this, and the words that were left by my wife and by Gracie, are so very important. And lead by example, get out and help people, and then you'll begin to heal. Back to you.
Thank you, Frances. We do have a question in the chat from Stalo Elders Group, wanting to know, with the elections coming up, will we have a presence of some of the candidates meeting to further our reconciliation efforts? Specifically from Pat from the Elders Group. Pat, if you wanted to also speak, I'm welcome. Can also unmute you as well. But yeah, wondering if Gracie, Frances, or Brenda, if you have something you'd like to answer to Pat.
What is the question?
So I want to know what the elections coming up we have a presence in some of the candidates meeting to further our reconciliation efforts. So thinking of the elections, just bringing to the forefront, the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, the calls to action from that. Is there a presence, or maybe if there's a resource where we can find out what's happening with that?
That is a good question. that I don't know about, but what needs to be done is reconciliation. People need to follow through and find out ways that they can reach out and help our people and steer them in the direction they need to go. And with respectful words and with kind words, and also with doing. Don't put things out there that you're not going to follow through with. It's important that when these people do that, and no nonsense. Politics nowadays is full of nonsense. Let's get real and let's care about people. That's what it's meant to be.
All right. Yeah, Pat, let me just message again if that didn't quite answer your question, or if you had any follow-up. There's another question here for Francis. Wondering if you can recommend an art walk that would be ideal for young children or families to visit and to further share their stories.
What do we know about that? That's a good question too. I would have to ask my daughter about that. She's very highly involved with the murals and everything in different towns, and I step aside and let the younger generation take over. I have my own things that I do to do with culture and everything, but I don't pay much attention to what's going on out there.
I could answer that.
Gracie, did you have something to add? So I saw you on.
Yes, in Chilliwack, called District 1881, there's some murals, and they actually have a special little pamphlet where you could take that with you, and you could see the murals right downtown Chilliwack. So you're probably able to, I'm going to assume, check on their website and see if that information is there. But I'll find it in the end, and you'll be able to get in touch with me if you need to find that info.
All right. Another question from Catherine around, are there any special ceremonies throughout the year that celebrate matriarchs? Would love to hear how they are celebrated and acknowledged. If anyone like to reflect on that.
I can share within our community of Sewally, and there has been other health departments who honor new babies, and then they have the special ceremony where they honor the new moms and the family together in the community. So, and also other part of this honoring matriarchs is elders gatherings, or a special elders day where community may just honor the elders that are in their community. So I know those kind of ceremonies do happen.
Great. All right. Thanks, Gracie. Great. Well, I guess maybe I can ask a few, I guess some questions. I think we have kind of touched on this a little bit already, but just thinking about, how the role of matriarchs has maybe changed over time and is impacted by colonialism. So I think, Francis, you mentioned, the 60s scoop, obviously the residential school system. I'm just wondering if you can reflect a bit on how the impact of colonialism on the role in the community, and speak a little bit to kind of that reconciliation process since moving forward.
There are all kinds of things going on, especially in the next few days to do with reconciliation and reconciliation, especially. A lot of the things that go on, our elders, I've heard them say that I'm tired of talking about this. I want to see something done. I want people to listen, but not to the pain that I've been through, but to hear us and take action of some sort and realize that, we got this way because of colonization. there were so many changes in our lives. I was 60 scoop. Being 60 scoop, I was taken away from my family, and I never became close with them ever again because we never got to go home, you know. And so as time went by, I learned to make it on my own through my back to my culture and carry on in a good way and start to realize that, you know, that I carried that spirit, that homo spirit, that native spirit, that to carry on, and the only way for me to heal was to help people. And the most important part of all this, I came to realize, was the matriarch, and because women are nurturers, and our elders with their wisdom and with the healing hands that they have and the healing spirit that they carry. And this is to younger people that are listening out there. Pay attention. It's not about one person doing the spirit work. It's about both the matriarch and the patriarch coming forward and sharing the wisdom that we carry as we get older, sharing the healing that we carry, but most of all, teaching about love and forgiveness. You know, forgive that past, learn to love yourself and leave that past alone. There's nothing in the past. So as we move forward through reconciliation, I recommend to people when they talk about the love, talk about the kindness, talk about the forgive the past. I don't have to talk about my trauma anymore because I forgave that past. And so as we carry on and as we share with everybody, it's not about the hurt that we carry. It's about how we let go of it. Haichka.
Thank you, Francis. Brenda or Gracie, did you have anything else you wanted to add or share on that one?
Oh, just a reflection. Okay. Sorry, Brenda, just a reflection in regards to how communities are really thriving in creating opportunities to offer traditional wellness practices or traditional teachings the best way we can. And it's really that networking and sharing on if somebody in the community is wanting to learn about something, or maybe it might be a traditional teaching that will need to be expanded just a little bit more. So more learning occurs. So a lot of that is happening and it's alive and well within our communities. So I just thought it'd be important to share because there's a lot of work happening that we don't necessarily share outwardly, you know, or publicly, you know, unless, of course, there's social media and some of the work. But, you know, it's just important to share that we're still able to continue on our teachings the best way we can.
I would just like to comment that I'm quite grateful to be a part of this today, to be on this platform and to have a voice and to share. And the work that my husband and I do together, we've never really given a name to it or really given it much thought. We've just come forward with love and honor and respect, with a willingness to wanting to reach out to show people in our own way, to guide them along and show them that there is a better way of life and that you can heal from the past, and that there are ways to do that. And part of what we shared today, or specifically what I shared today, is it's about it's taking action, and it's helping to guide people along a healing journey. And we are all on a healing journey, regardless of what time period we are in our lives. We're all on a healing journey, and there's always room for growth and for reaching out and helping others and sharing the love with others. Sam.
Thank you. I also had another question for Gracie, if you wouldn't mind. You know, we've seen the cedar hats that in some of your photos, and then also kind of on some of the slides that we shared today. I would love to hear, I guess, when did you start making cedar hats? How was that learning process? I've never really asked you about that before, and if you're comfortable sharing, would love to hear.
Sure. So I'm happy to have seen some of the representative with Patricia, I would assume from the Kokolita elders way back when I was probably 5 or 6 years old or so. Oh, well, I was probably even younger, but following my mom around to the Sardis Ladies group, the Salish Weavers building out at Stalo, which used to be Stalo, which is now Chilliwack Métis Association, or around the communities. And of course, we didn't have cell phones back then, but we knew if it was harvesting time to maybe harvest onions or special plants to make dyes for wool. And also there was some opportunities where I was able to learn cedar, and I do have actually a tray that my mom and I started, and I still have yet to finish it. But so that goes back, and just really being that crafty person, or was I just that little girl who just needed some attention on her own instead of bugging everybody? But you know, I learned the gifts of cedar, of weaving, beading, harvesting plants, and it was just all alongside all of these wonderful mothers and grandmothers and aunties, which they basically became aunties to me. And so there was always that traditional teaching in me as to what is this and what is the teaching about it. So I learned about the traditional teaching of the cedar is, you know, honoring the special person who had that connection to the resources within the community. And then upon his passing, like you know, the transformation into the cedar tree, and there we have all the gifts that it has to offer. So over the years, I developed the gifts of cedar and have shared with many, many people throughout our territory in education, health, or universities, whatever it may be, just kind of answered the call and shared with them teachings. But I would share the traditional stories as to where it came from, and then share how do we do it in our contemporary work nowadays. These cedar roses, for example, I learned at a small gathering where they were sharing how to make cedar roses, and I went home and I showed my mom. And I brought an extra 2 pieces with her just to show her how I learned. And then lo and behold, she threw it aside and she said, I can teach you a better way. And so this way is now the better way, is where it's a fold, and it's very complicated to teach. That takes patience. But this is kind of, I love sharing cedar pictures because I always say a little bit of my mom and me go into each of these cedar roses. And this is a yellow cedar bark here, and it has a little bit of the sluey is the inner bark, and the outer bark we take off to get to the inner bark. We harvest in the springtime, dry it out, and then I make the cedar hats, or whatever I can make out of the cedar, and offer the teachings. So in the title page, I like to offer, there's a lot more to that actual picture. If you want to go right to the very top or the very end slide, it shows the cedar hat teachings. Cedar, these have yellow and red cedar. To my left is the cedar root that is actually in the middle of the cedar hat. And also in the background, there's traditional plants in those planters. So there's lots of teachings in regards to even what that means. But I thought, you know, it's kind of like I was thinking the big hat could be all the matriarchs that have, you know, have bestowed upon me their gifts. And this is kind of me in the second hat, just kind of leaning over and learning and appreciating. And also, you know, we usually like to honor the blankets, and so it's kind of my way of covering them and offering thanks. So that's why I chose to do the picture in that way. You know, and it's, the hats are just such great energy and connection to the land, to where the bark came from, to a finished product. So it's just really enjoyable to do this work, and it's just fun stuff for me. And teaching it is another honor, but I like to kind of I don't do as much cedar teachings as I used to, but I still really enjoy doing this work.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gracie. Yeah, they're so beautiful. Thank you for sharing a bit more about that. Great. Another, I guess, question that came up for me when you started off, Gracie, talking about, different language, so the Halkomeum language, just like wondering about, I guess, the role of matriarchs with language, or how that kind of relates, and if someone wanted to speak on that part of, protecting that language.
I can share where I did some teachings, over the years growing up, hearing some words and some, and how we do our seasonal activities for the year. And, I really appreciate some of the work of the seasonal calendar of the year. Kokalitsa had spearheaded that with the Stalo Seedle program, and a lot of the work with the historians who have created our dictionaries, and we are just moving leaps and bounds into sharing, which began as 4 levels of Halkomelem and is now being taught at UFE. And so it's just that connection of learning, and now there are also some groups where we often see where they gather together and go on trails, and even trails within our Fraser Valley here have some First Nations names to them. And also there's guided trails where they may be plants that have traditional names, and sharing of those. So it's moving leaps and bounds in so many ways. Also, Kokalitsa and Stalo have some beautiful gifts of books that are created and sharing stories, and they have some language words in them too. And also, and even seeing t-shirts with some special names to commemorate Orange Shirt Day, or some special words for even names of programs or names of buildings, that support First Nations are being created. So there's a wealth of knowledge to learn from. And I learn as well. I learned a lot when I had special elders teach drum songs to us, or teach us those 4 levels of language, the curriculum part of it. But, we just continue to learn and grow each day. So I'm just grateful that a lot of this is still ongoing, and I don't believe our language will ever be lost.
Thank you so much, Gracie. I guess Francis or Brenda, did you guys have anything you wanted to add on that? Or they're just thinking that Francis, kind of reopen the meeting for us with a song. Why don't you, if you had any reflections to share as well on the topic of language.
Yeah, it's so vitally important that I don't know my language. I remember being taught as a little boy by my grandmother, and I have a vague, very vague memory of her talking to me, and I was sitting in a high chair. And she was talking to me in the language. I'd be cocking my head, and she'd just start laughing at me, But it was pretty funny. But no, learning the language is I've seen so many changes since I've been in the valley. I've been in the valley for over 50 years now, and I've seen the villages grow strong in their cultures. All the different villages. There was only one or two. There was only a handful of dancers when I come to the valley. And now they're everywhere. The culture is taken over. People are getting stronger. They're believing in themselves. They carry themselves with pride now. And the only thing that I say in closing is always remember the only time we're allowed to look down on someone, putting our hand up to help them back up. It's good.
Thanks. Thank you, Francis. Sherry, I see your hand raised. Here, you should be unmuted, and yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you so much. This has been an amazing time together. Just thank you, all of you. I just want to especially thank you for highlighting the amazing things that are happening, because it's so encouraging. We need the truth. Historically, we need the truth what's happening now, and that's in both realms, right? Francis, you talked about trauma and all the pieces that people carry, and then talking about like the good things. I'm just really really touched by that, because yeah, it can be a lot hearing everything, and I'm just hearing the strength and the resilience and the beauty of walking in what you've been taught, walking in who you are. And I heard the word love and kindness and nurture over and over today, and I'm just really, really thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. All right. We do still have a little bit of time left, but maybe what we'll do is go through some of the resources that Gracie shared, and also some of the support resources that, well, for self-care. So we can maybe go through those, and then we can, if we have some time left, we might be able to take a few more questions. But Gracie, just wondering if you, if you had wanted to highlight anything here around some of the resources, and they are being posted in the chat right now, and just we will be sending out these resources and slides after the webinar as well. So
Super.
yeah.
So we've shared a little bit already about some of the top bullets there of some of the information. I wanted to kind of go down to the middle where it says Indian Residential School History and Dialogue Center. I recommend to have people go and be part of a self-guided, or you could get a guide to walk you around the center. It sure is just a value of information, and you'll just feel just so appreciative of all the work that is happening. So I just wanted to acknowledge that first. Also, Peggy Janicki, The Secret Pocket Book, is a special story of her mom as a residential school era survivor and her story. So Peggy's a beautiful artist and a wonderful matriarch that resides within our community. And I wanted to honor her today, not only for the t-shirt design that she gifted myself and my mom, but also the special book. And you're welcome to check out her website as well. It's just a beautiful reflection of how she supports and continues on the journey of her teachings. Two more bullets down. Linda Gray, this is a second book that she has, and also I really, really love these words. When I actually met her at a special gathering out connected with the Hope Healthier Communities, and we were out in the Fraser Canyon, and the special book that she has, it's a wealth of knowledge of First Nations 101. But what stuck with me and will continue to be with me is these words about rematriation. And I thought this is a great way to kind of end this part. And her definition of rematriation is the process of returning to traditional Indigenous ways of knowing, being, and doing, which includes reinstating Indigenous women's inherent roles, rights, and responsibilities. So I honor Linda's book. I've read it and use it as a resource quite often. Really appreciate all of these resources, and whenever I need just a little bit of more clarity, or of course I connect with my wise and wonderful sister and my mom, but I also love, checking out Jerry's work in his podcasts, and also Justice Murray Sinclair with the information that is always shared. So there's not one special resource, there are several. And I probably have like top 20, I don't know, it's probably more like top 40. But they're all of such value. So, and continue on if you're looking into the health part of the work, check out our Doctors of BC website, which will continually be updated more in the new year about cultural safety and humility. Also, I have my own website here that I'll put in the chat. And I try to be a little bit more diligent to adding information, but I like to add some resources or just some little reflections about where I'm at or what's happening. So you're welcome to check that out. Thanks, Lisa.
Great. All right. And then we can also go to the next slide for some self-care resources. Gracie, did you want to introduce those or you want to speak to those a bit?
Yeah, you're welcome to.
Okay. So just, we recognize that especially over the next few days and on Monday, it might be a really difficult time for a lot of people, for yourself personally, or it might be for someone else that you're connected to. So just wanted to highlight a few of these resources. So the Help for Wellness helpline, it's immediate help for Indigenous peoples. So there's a helpline and also an online chat. And we have just posted those in the chat, and then we'll be circulating these after the webinar as well. Then there's also the National Indian Residential School Crisis Line and some coping strategies available there. So those are for residential school survivors. And then Wellness Together Canada, that's open to all individuals, all Canadians, a range of different supports. And so there's a phone number to call and also a website. So those are some resources that we'd recommend. And feel free to kind of share those with others if you notice there's a new community that could benefit from it. I think those are the main things that we had wanted to share with you today. And we will be sending these out, and we do have a short feedback survey. If you don't mind taking a few minutes to fill that out, it really helps us to kind of know future topics, how you're feeling about these sessions, and what to expect in the future. And so maybe before we have just a few minutes left, I'm just wondering if there's anyone else that hasn't had a chance to share today that wanted to share, or themselves have a matriarch that they would like to honor or share an experience about. So just wanted to welcome anyone who hasn't had an opportunity to speak, if they'd like to share or ask a question for us. Great, and I'm seeing a lot of posts of gratitude in the chat, some really sharing of powerful stories. So a lot of people grateful for what Francis, Brenda, and Gracie shared today, and I think definitely echo that for everyone here today. Great. I guess any last words, Gracie, before we sign off?
Sure. Francis, did you want to go before me? I'll let you share anything before me if you like.
No, you go right ahead, Gracie.
Want to make sure to ask our special elders. So I another one of my great resources, and just takes me off my mind, and because we do carry a lot, but we do also bring that balance into our lives of nature and that connection to just the wonderful resources around us to keep us going. And so another resource that comes to mind is Thomas King with his special storybooks, and having those audiobooks on the side. So I really appreciate his work. But also I love the words he said, take with this what you will. Right? So, whatever information today has been shared from our hearts, it's up to you to take with this and share. And as you continue your lifelong learning journey, how important it is to be engaged, to be committed, to be connected, and really build those Indigenous relations, because we acknowledge all the hard work. We acknowledge the connection to us, and it brings a lot of that really important work that's supported by the UNDRIP. It really brings us together in dignity and well-being and caring for others and for our future. So I just wanted to acknowledge that this journey will continue, and we will keep learning about various topics. with each other, and the learning really happens when we sit, wait, and wonder, and we bring ourselves to that light of that connection. And I believe a few days from now, some other connections to what we talked about will come, and then we'll be here. We'll be feeling that energy alongside you. So I'm so grateful for the Reichart team, and also Francis and Brenda for being part of this very special and unique work. And it just takes us on another journey of really appreciating what we have that's around us. So I just thought I'd complete our time together with a drum song and acknowledge the Women's Warrior song by Martina Pierre. And it's a special song that she created that is known throughout Turtle Island. And it's just to honor women. And I've assisted with singing with women in every facet of maybe recognizing special youth women who are graduating high school or graduating post-secondary, or honoring our elders and our matriarchs that are in the circle, or it's just honoring special women for their achievements that they have done. Not only, it's never for ourselves, it's for our community to continue to appreciate all these gifts that we have that are around us. So I'll end off with the song, and special gratitude for everybody that has taken the time to be with us today.
HK.
Hey, 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 yaki-yo-ho, yaki-yo-ho. Hey, hey, yaki-yo, yaki-yo-ho. Hey, hey, yaki-yo. Hey, 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 yaki-yo-ho. Yaki-yo-ho, hey, hey, yaki-yo, yaki-yo-ho, hey, hey, yaki-yo, hey, 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 yaki-yo-ho, yaki-yo-ho, hey, hey, yaki-yo, yaki-yo-ho. Hey, hey, yaki-yo, ho,
Lucia.
oh.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And yeah, hope to see you again next year. And take some time looking through these resources and dedicating some time on Monday as well. Yeah, thank you so much for being together today. It was a pleasure.
HK.
Bye for now.
All of you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yoa.